Hello, hello. Good morning, good evening to you, wherever you are today. Who have I got joining me today? I see Melissa. Hello, my friend. How are you? Good to see you. All right, let's get cracking in. Melissa, I know you know me, but for anybody else who might be joining and maybe even watching back live, but watching back on replay, um, just a little bit of an introduction before we get started so you know who I am, because we do have quite a few new people in the group. So, welcome everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I am Karen. I'm the Plant Power Coach, and this is my group. Certified whole food plant based nutrition expert, holistic health coach, and also life coach. And today, I'm going to be talking to you about what healthy whole food plant based eating looks like and why this is so powerful for healthy weight loss. And it's powerful for health and it's powerful for weight loss. But before we dive into that, I thought I'd just give you a little bit of a context as to my background and what's brought me here and my own struggles with weight, because you might be looking at me now and going, she's never had a weight problem. Well, let me tell you. In my 20s, let's go back to my 20s. Going right back, I've always had sort of some self-image issues going on in the back of my mind since probably about the age of 3 or 4, but we're going to start this story from about 20. In my 20s, I really struggled with weight gain. I probably put on around about 10 kilos or so from my teens. When I left home at age 20, I moved out of home with mum and dad and moved in with my fiance at the time and moved city. I used to be a badminton player as a kid, very, very active, and then I gave that all up and tried to go to the gym when I was in Auckland, where I lived, and it just wasn't working. I just wasn't gelling with it, and I lost a lot of activity, put on a lot of weight. So in my 20s, I really had a lot of not just the weight, but it really affected my self-image and my self-worth that were already not terribly strong in the background, by the way. So this really exacerbated the issues that I was experiencing at that time. Combine that with a few marriage troubles, and I was not sitting in a very good place. I was trying a lot of diet tactics. I was trying to do a lot of things like 12-week programs and 12-week challenges. I don't know if any of you remember Bill Phillips at the time. He had an amazing book, and I wanted to be one of those people having an amazing transformation. And I would start his program, and then about 3 or 4 weeks later, I was off. I just wasn't able to keep going. I tried all sorts of other things like Weight Watchers, and I tried shakes, and I tried diet pills at one point as well. So I was really, none of that ever worked for me. Why? Because none of it was ever long-term and sustainable. I was trying to do too much restrictive stuff and stuff that you can't keep doing for the rest of your life. So that's what wasn't working for me. Moving to my 30s, and suddenly things started to shift a little bit for me. My ex and I moved country. We actually ended up buying a fitness business together, of all things, right? He was actually a personal trainer at the time, and my job that I'd been in had been made redundant, so I decided to step into it with him. Stepping into that role helped get me out of my head where I kept saying to myself, I can't, I'm not that person. I'm just not very fit. I can't run. This is not me. And I was forced to start saying, I am this person. So in that role as a trainer, I started to want to stay a step ahead of my members in my club. Average person, let's just say, was a 47-year-old female who'd never been to a gym before. So we were like a small corporate club. And that really took me from being probably at the most unfit in my life to the fittest in my life. So I found my mojo with fitness. It was really great. But that, and during that process, the marriage ended, the business ended. I went back out into corporate life, but I just found my mojo in the gym, and that was what was keeping me in shape. I was in the best shape of my life. I was in the best fitness of my life. But here's what started happening. I started getting injured. I was doing so much and not listening to my body. I wasn't slowing down. I wasn't stretching enough either. And I started getting injured. And when I was injured and couldn't exercise, guess what? I'd be going from feeling great in my body to feeling terrible in my body. The weight would come back on, the jeans would start not fitting, the muffin top would come back, and then I would have to get straight back in the gym as soon as I could and try and exercise like an idiot to try and get it all off again. And I was just doing this roller coaster of weight on, weight off, weight on, weight off, skinny jeans, fat jeans, skinny jeans. It was it was not a good, it was not fun, I have to say. And it was around about that time that I found my fitness pal and started calorie counting, so became overly obsessed with that. um, Particularly in times when I couldn't work out properly, and I wanted to use calorie counting as a way to manage what was coming into my body because I knew I wasn't being able to output. So even in my 30s, I still had a lot of this up and down roller coaster with my weight, and I just didn't know how to do things properly. I thought I was eating healthy. I was spent probably a good portion of my 30s pescetarian, and then towards the back end of my 30s, I transitioned back to vegetarian. Um, and into my 40s as well. So just before my 44th birthday, back in 2017, I actually was diagnosed with melanoma, and so it was on my leg, and so I ended up having two operations to remove the lesion. Thankfully, nothing else was required, but I didn't want anything else either. But that really sparked me to look at my health, and I'd been wanting to go back to being vegan, so that was my kick up the butt to do it. But that's when I found this amazing world of Forks Over Knives, watched the documentary, found a lot of the experts and started following them, and I was like, yep, plant-based diet, I'm on the right track, this is great. But vegan is not whole food plant-based, and there are amazing faux meat, faux cheese, processed food alternatives out there now in the vegan market. And of course, what did I do? I wanted to go and explore it all. I wanted to go and try it all. And so my weight struggles during that time, they didn't go away. I was still up and down, up and down, up and down. Add to that, my digestion was getting worse. I was starting to also develop some intolerances to food. I'd started to become allergic to apples a few years ago, and it was sort of getting worse. And then add almonds to it, and then start to add beans to it. So my digestion was getting worse and worse. My skin had always been problematic. It's almost like when I was hormonal, every month I'd get a massive breakout. What else? I was starting to get brain foggy. My anxiety levels were starting to get all over the place as well. So, just going vegan wasn't even shifting a lot of that. I just thought this was all me, by the way. But then it was a conversation with a friend of mine she and her husband had watched the Game Changers, and they wanted to transition to plant-based eating. So I was having a conversation with her and helping her with many different aspects. And she said, you should be a coach doing this. And bam, that was where I decided to change my life, leave 30 years of corporate retail, and become a coach. I'd been wanting to be a coach of some sort. I thought it was going to be a life coach, kind of am still. And so I decided to quit my job and go get certified at eCornell in health food plant-based nutrition and start my business. So that was at the beginning of 2020. All right. So imagine this: 2020, left paid employment, starting out on my own venture, don't know what I'm doing. March of 2020, my mother died, end of February. So at that point in time, my mother died. Then we went straight into COVID lockdown. I started emotionally eating and drinking. Oh, here come the tears. I started emotionally eating and drinking at that time because I hadn't had a chance to process my emotions at my mother's funeral. Sorry, I wasn't expecting this today. I hadn't had a chance to really process my emotions at her funeral because I had to be the strong one for my brother and my father who weren't coping. And so when that was all over and we were in lockdown, I was back in Australia. I started the process of drinking a bottle of wine probably every night, certainly most days of the week, and emotional eating as well. And lo and behold, my weight started to balloon again. And at some point, that was when I decided enough is enough. Here I am as a health coach, and I'm emotionally eating. I'm also emotionally drinking, and this has got to stop. This is not who I want to be. And so that's when I decided I really sort of clicked with the whole food plant-based is not vegan. Even though I'd done the certification, it's something in me hadn't clicked. And I think it was really going through that process with mum and sort of diving back into unhealthy eating that I decided to get serious with myself. And that's when I decided, right, whole food plant-based it is. There's no more oil, there's no more processed meats. I chucked out the faux meats, the faux cheeses. I stopped eating those on a regular basis. Stopped cooking with oil and got much serious with myself about what it was I was putting into my body. And OMG, did things shift for me. Actually, I should have put in this group today, I should have added a photo for you of my transformation. And as I went whole food plant-based, I just felt like my whole body started to shift. And the weight, the emotional eating, plus all the other struggles that I'd had throughout my last 20 years, just seemed to melt away from me. And I felt so much better, not just physically in my body, in terms of my weight, but my digestion suddenly was normal. My skin has never been as good now. I'm almost 49. My skin has never been as good now. Has never been as good as it is now. My energy levels, I've got double the energy that I had in my 20s. I feel amazing. So this way of eating is something that has transformed my weight, my health. It's also helped me transform my relationship to myself and my body. I have a belief that it's also helped my mindset in terms of the signals that my body, my gut health is sending to my brain. I'm actually much more calm in my mind and in my emotions, and I have I fully believe it's not just the work I've done on my mind myself, but I fully believe that, and this is what I know from all the experts who talk about it, gut health definitely impacts our the receptors or the signals that are sent to our brain. So for me, this has been transformative, and it's been an incredible journey for me. So this is why I'm so passionate about helping other people step into this space. I know that if I can have a transformation like that, that I want everybody else to experience this as well. Okay, so it's not just about weight loss. It's about helping you step into being the best version of you that you can be, and that is the healthiest version that you can be. And that's what whole food plant-based is. So, excuse my moment of tears. I don't think I've done that on camera for a while. Okay, but so let's get into it today. I know that it is very, very easy to feel very confused about what healthy eating looks like, and what's not, and what to focus on and what to not focus on for weight loss. Out there in the diet industry, at least, we've got so many messages around, you've got to reduce your carbs, you've got to have more protein, you've got to exercise more. So that's the general weight loss industry, and then there's all the diet tactics that go with it. But even in our whole food plant-based world, we've got so many different experts with their different variations of whole food plant-based. Different programs, different methods, and everybody, like I'm thinking Starch Solution, Mary's Mini, Nutritarian, Daily Dozen, things like that. And I can see that there's so much confusion out there, and people end up being a little bit paralyzed, like a deer in the headlights, really scared to make a decision, scared to make change, scared to get it wrong, really. And so, and then our brain, when we get into that space, when we get into that mindset, then our brain starts to freak out and wants us to not take any change. It wants us to stay the same. We just sort of become paralyzed about making a decision. And the brain starts throwing up all these fears and doubts about whether we're going to be able to do it ourselves. It throws up thoughts like it's going to be hard. I'm going to have to change everything all at once. I'm going to miss out, right? I'm going to miss out on all my favorite foods. I'm going to go hungry. I'm not going to have enough to eat. If I want to lose weight, I've got to go hungry. That's sort of what we've been told to believe. We start to believe that maybe our social life is going to suffer. We worry about everyone judging us. We also think that we need to be perfect to get to where we want to go, or else we're going to fail. We're not going to succeed. So, one, we're building up this confusion about which plan is going to be right. And then we build up fear around what we think might happen if we even try, if we even step into this way of eating, or if we even step into trying to lose weight. And all that does is it leads us to procrastination. It leads us to putting off even making a start, putting it off for another day, just saying, oh no, look, I'm not ready for it. I'll start next Monday, or I'll start next week. I'm just not ready. And next minute, before you know, like, there's another year that's gone by and we still haven't made any progress towards our goals. All right. So I want to help you end this pattern. I want to help you just get out of your head, and I want to help you start to take action. It's not that you can't lose weight. Your mind right now is just trying to protect you from the harm it thinks you're going to try and inflict on yourself with things like rules and restrictions and confusion and changing everything all at once. And we also are led to believe that we have to hate on ourselves if we want to lose weight. We have to hate our bodies. That's exactly not what I teach. I teach, we're doing this from a place of love. All right. I also don't teach, I don't advocate changing everything all at once. And I'll talk to you about why that is soon. I also don't like to teach strict rules necessarily. I have rules for myself. I have some rules and I have some guidelines for myself as well, but I don't like to teach strict rules. I know some of the other weight loss coaches out there, particularly in the whole food plant-based space, are pretty strict. I don't like teaching that because rules generally require 100% adherence. And we are human. We've got to allow ourselves to be human. We live in a social world. We live in a world where, stuff happens. We live in a world with other people. We are social creatures. We don't live in a box cut off from the rest of society. And feeling like we need to be perfect is what sets us up for feeling like we will be a failure. We're not going to succeed if we can't be 100% perfect, right? I'm not perfect. I'm fully open to admitting that. I have pizza every now and then too, right? And I was able to achieve my results by getting serious about what I put in my body, but I wasn't 100% perfect. I maintain my results now, still without perfection. It's okay, right? I teach guidelines, not rules. This plant-based world that we live in, can be very black and white about some of the things it teaches. It's very much about what you do and what you don't do. If you're not doing it 100% right, then don't expect results. That's what I saw in a starch solution group once. And that's not true. You don't need to be 100% accurate in order to get results. And I'll talk to you about why that is soon. So to me, teaching guidelines rather than rules is important because rules indicate we're either doing something right or we're doing something wrong. And when we feel like we're doing something wrong, we tend to beat ourselves up and tell ourselves bullshit, like we won't be successful, like we can't be successful. And then when we think we can't be successful, what do? We throw in the towel, we go, screw it, I'm going to go eat everything. And that's what really holds us back. All right. So if you're already in a, pretty I'm not going to say bad, but if you're already suffering with your relationship with yourself or with your food or with your body, with your weight, then lumping self-punishment on top of that is not going to help the situation. I sort of call that a bit of diet trauma. I think we've all experienced a bit of that, right? Hands up, hands up. If you've experienced that, Helen, I'll talk to you about what the difference between plant-based and vegan is shortly. Right? So when we've got enough to deal with when it comes to our mindset and our relationship with ourselves, without making things worse by trying to set ourselves up to live up to impossible standards. All right. So instead, I like to focus on teaching the forks over knives, green light, orange light, and red light guidelines. And these guidelines will help you understand things like nutrient density, calorie density, energy, and health. And they help you understand what foods are going to help you achieve the results that you want. But you just start with where you're at and you make small changes to move towards that. You make changes to reduce your red light foods and you make changes to increase your green light foods. You don't have to be 100%. And the more you move towards fueling your body from the green, the more you expand that green portion of your diet and the more you close off that red portion of your diet, the more your results are going to start to come in, the closer you're going to start to get to your goal without having to give up, everything that you shouldn't be eating all at once. All right. So, and I wanted to speak for a moment about what happens when we try and make drastic changes in our diet, but in our life in general. But what happens in our diet when we try and change everything all at once? Say you're eating the standard American diet at the moment. What happens when you change everything all at once? It's hard. Our brain can't handle that much change all at once. Because it's not just the food that we're eating, it's how we handle ourselves in certain situations in our life. It's how we manage the relationships with our family and our friends. It's how we manage going out to eat. It's how we manage traveling. It's all the things. This all needs to be encompassed as learning, as a learning curve on the journey. Our brain can't handle so much change all at once. It's very overwhelming to the brain and it puts up resistance to change. The brain wants to go back to what is familiar and what is comfortable because that is what feels safe. Our brain craves familiarity and safety. Right? So when we allow ourselves to start with where we are at and just make small, incremental, doable changes, but we still have a plan to keep moving, making progress towards our goals, right? Our brain doesn't then freak out. We don't ever have to feel restricted or feel deprived, create cravings for foods that we're now giving up. They're brain cravings, by the way. And it's a lot easier and sustainable long term. And further down the line, when you've made the changes, when you've made some changes and you really start to feel the difference in the body, you'll find that you are naturally drawn towards more of those green light foods because you really start to notice the difference that they make in your body. You notice the difference in your energy. You notice the difference in your digestion. You notice the difference in your skin or your brain fog or whatever else it is that you're suffering with symptoms-wise. Not just the weight that you feel. You notice how different you feel overall versus when you eat red light foods. You start to recognize how sick they make you feel. How sluggish or tired they might make you feel, how it brings back the brain fog or the anxiety. When you start making those changes, you really start to notice when you go back to making red light choices. So I want to help you shift your focus away from all the confusion about whether a food is going to help you lose weight or put on weight. I just want to help you switch your focus towards fueling your body for high health, for high energy. And when you fuel your body for high energy and high health, this is when you start shifting what's going on inside the body from a cellular point of view, from a microbiome point of view, from a health point of view. And what happens as a result of a healthy body is a healthy weight starts to emerge too. When your body gets healthier and you feel more energized, you start to feel naturally pulled towards those supportive habits, because you then notice how amazing you feel in your body when you're eating that way. Right? So you do not have to start your weight loss journey by changing everything all at once. You also do not need to go into severe cutting restriction. You do not need to cut out all sorts of foods. That's what I used to try and do in my 20s when I tried to restrict down to very, very limited amounts of foods that I was eating. The Bill Phillips plan had you eating one protein, one starch, one vegetable at every meal. And it was just too restrictive. So we don't want to go into severe restriction, because it's not sustainable long term. You just start with where you are. You recognize where you want to go in terms of, moving towards your green light foods, and you make a plan to start making some small shifts in what you're eating. You don't need to 180 it all, right? We don't need to do that, just small shifts. We're creating new habits here, which must be done slowly for them to stick and for them to not be overwhelming. Okay, and I'll show you what that means just a little bit later. Let's talk about these traffic light foods. Just let me flip to my presentation. I'm going to bring my screen up again. Okay. Alrighty here. Can you all see that? I'm just going to make sure. Yep, I think that's looking good. Okay, let's go to the next screen, because that's where we want to be. Okay, so green light foods. Green light foods. Oops, on the right thing. Traffic light foods. We are going to, sorry. Technology, folks, technology. Okay, so the traffic light foods. Okay, so we've got our green light foods, and our green light foods over here are our, I say go foods. These are our whole plant foods. These are fruit, vegetables, starchy and non-starchy, whole grains. White rice is okay on occasion. Technically it doesn't have the fiber, but it's still considered an okay food occasionally if brown rice or any other sort of whole rice is not available. Legumes, herbs and spices, and mushrooms, they're technically fungus, but they're an honorary vegetable here, so they're green light foods. These foods, eaten in their whole form or minimally processed, whole form in the green light category. They taste great, they make you feel great physically, they are great for your digestion, they make you feel great mentally. They are high vibration foods. They'll make you feel energized when you eat these foods. They're high in vitamins and minerals and antioxidants and phytonutrients and water and fiber, and they are health promoting, and they're low in calorie density. We'll talk about calorie density soon. So these are the foods in their whole natural state. They haven't been stripped of any of their beneficial nutrients and processed. They haven't had anything harmful added to them either, like chemicals. I've been through what they are. Then we've got our orange light foods. So has anyone got any questions about green light foods? Okay, so the green light foods are whole plant foods. They're virtually all whole plants except for what you find in the orange and yellow, orange/yellow light portion over here. We want to eat these with caution. We want to be a little bit cautious about these. They're still healthy. They still are high in nutrients, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, phytonutrients, etc. They are some of them are low in water content. And that's because they're minimally processed. But these are cautionary to eat because they are higher in calories. So we have our high fat foods, high fat whole plant foods, which are like avocados, nuts, and seeds, and olives, and coconut falls into here. Though coconut's one to be aware of. It is high saturated fat. So if you are looking to reduce cholesterol, you want to make sure that you're not eating coconut. For everybody else, really minimally. Okay. Um, dried fruits and things like dates also sit in here because they have had the water stripped out of them. Therefore, naturally, the calorie density goes up. That's tofu and tempeh sit in here as well. They are, and things like wholemeal, wholemeal grain foods like breads and pastas. They sit in here too because they are minimally processed. They have taken the original food and they've broken them up somehow and created another food from it. But what they haven't done, what hasn't happened, is they haven't had any nutrition stripped away from the original food. And there's also not a lot of harmful additives in here. So just be careful if you are eating wholemeal breads, that you want to find, as much as possible, you want to find one without as many chemical additives and without oils as well, or sugars. You will find condiments sitting in here as well, and then salts and natural sugars in small doses. Plant milks also sit in here as well. And then we have our red light foods. So red light foods, these may taste great. You know, they might be comforting, they might be familiar, but these are the foods that actually make you feel poor physically. They're bad for your digestion. They feed pathogenic gut bacteria. Some of them will clog your arteries. They're likely to affect your mental health. They're low vibration foods. You'll feel tired, you'll feel sluggish, you might have brain fog. You won't feel well when you eat these foods. They are low in nutrition, low in vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, phytonutrients, etc. They either have very little or no fiber at all. They're very low in water. They are high in calories, very high in calories. And a lot of the foods that sit in here are disease promoting as well. So we've got all of our animal foods that sit in here: flesh, dairy, eggs. I like to call it dead bodies, coagulated cow pus, and hens' periods. If anyone needs being put off eating these foods, that's what I call them. They're also highly processed foods. So these are things like oils, highly processed sugars, isolated protein powders, soy or pea protein powders, for example, white flour products, white flour goods. They're also foods that have had a bunch of chemical ingredients added, like preservatives, emulsifiers, stabilizers, colors, all that sort of stuff. And then also lumped in this red avoid area are all things like fast food, frozen or pre-prepared meals that are made with a lot of these ingredients and have a lot of chemicals in them. There might be pre-made sauces and things like that have a shelf life. Basically, anything that sits on a shelf and has a shelf life and has packaging, an ingredients list, a long ingredients list, and a barcode is often things that sit in this red light category. Not always. Some of them sit in the orange light category if they're minimally processed as well and don't have too many additives or chemical ingredients. So I hope that gives you just a little bit of an idea. Oops, we're going backwards again. Don't want to go backwards. Here we go. So just as some visuals for you, vegetables, mushrooms, fruits, legumes, whole grains, herbs and spices are our green go, 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 go. Orange light foods, eat them minimally, things like pastas, whole wheat breads, olives, plant milks, tofu, tempeh, avocados, some nuts and seeds, and we've got sauces and condiments and things here as well. So eat with caution if they're relatively whole and relatively unprocessed. Well, sorry, not relatively whole, but relatively unprocessed, but also whole fat foods. Then we've got our red light foods, which are disease promoting, high in calories, and may taste great, may be comforting, but in the long run, they're not great for our health. All right. So next, I think this is where we're going next. Let me just double check my notes. Okay, so yes. All right, so this is the calorie density chart here. Just to give you, it's one of my calorie density charts. This is to show you how, I guess, the matrix of calories versus nutrients. And what you'll see here is that red light foods are very high in calories, but very low in nutrition. Right? So this is why we want to avoid these. You know, for a lot of calories, you're not getting a lot of buck nutrient-wise. When it comes to our orange light foods, these can be, you know, medium to high in terms of nutrition, but they're also medium to high in terms of calorie intake. So that's why we just want to be cautious with these. When it comes to our green light foods, over here they're very high in nutrition, and very low in calories, and the next slide will show you that as well. So this slide here shows you calories per 100 grams, and sorry to those of you who are in the US who understand pounds, but I've got a 100 gram chart here to show you. What this shows us up the side here is calories per 100 grams. So this is just the matrix of 100 calories per gram. Calories per 100 grams, sorry. Then down the bottom here, we've got all sorts of different foods. And over here, the lowest calorie dense foods are your non-starchy vegetables. So these ones are very, very high in water content, and they have very little calories, very few calories per 100 grams, only 25 on average. The next highest is fruit. So people talk about fruit being, you know, being the thing that puts on weight. How? It's the second lowest calorie dense food on the planet. Okay, maybe take out avocados, take out coconut. But the rest of your fruits down here at an average of 60. It's very, very calorie dilute. Potatoes, again, like the world's gone mad over potatoes, thinking potatoes are fattening. No, potatoes are not fattening. They've got virtually no calories. 70 calories per 100 grams. Legumes are next at an average of 100 calories per 100 grams. Rice and pasta, and I've done a little chart here to show you rice and pasta. It's kind of like depending on whether it's a whole wheat pasta or white pasta, or whether you've got brown rice or white rices. So here, a mix of green foods and orange and maybe some red, but the calorie density is still the same. It's still around 125 calories per 100 grams. So can you eat rice? Can you eat pasta and still lose weight? Yeah, you can. You can. It's still very low calorie density. Right, so then we move on to meat and avocado, which sits at around about the same calorie density. This is getting up there now. This is around 200 calories per 100. Sorry, 200 calories per 100 grams. I say meats are red and avocado is an orange light food. Then next, bread. This is where a lot of people go a little bit astray. If you're having avocado on toast every single day, well, that could be creeping your calories up, and you're not even realizing it. So bread in here, probably a mix of orange and red, depending on whether it's wholemeal or not. And so, so bread getting up there again, 230 calories per 100 grams. And then we start getting serious down the back end here. Cheese and sugar. I measured out how much was 100 grams of sugar. Clearly, I don't have any cheese in my house, so I couldn't do that. 100 grams of sugar was 1 cup. 1 cup of sugar. 400 calories per 100 grams. How easy is it to eat? You know, how easy would it be if you were doing baking or putting putting sugar in your tea, or what else? Pouring maple syrup over everything that you eat. How easy would it be to add up to a cup or almost a cup of extra sugar in a day or even in a week? Okay, so that's an extra 400 calories right there. Nuts and seeds. This is the one for a lot of plant based people to be really, really aware of. I measured out 1 cup of, I think it was cashews. Sorry, 100 grams of cashews. It was 1 cup again. So, 1 cup, how easy is it to just snack on nuts? That crunch, that fat, the texture. They are so tasty and so moreish that you can be eating 600 calories before you have even recognized that you have. Very, very easy. So, I highly recommend don't snack on nuts if your goal is to lose weight. Keep nuts for sprinkling on top of things for a little bit of extra crunch, or keep them for some sauces that you're making, but use those sauces sparingly. Don't be making all your sauces out of cashews and having cashews every single day. Okay, so nuts and seeds are very high calorie density. And then we have the most calorie dense food on the planet, and that is oils at 885 calories per 100 grams. Now, clearly I don't have any oil in my place as well, so I couldn't measure that out, but that would not take long to build up to. 1 teaspoon of oil is 120 calories on its own. So when you're cooking with oil, when you're eating foods with oil in them, when you're drizzling oil over top of your salads or over top of your pastas or whatever, it's very, very easy to add up, to 500 calories. 4 tablespoons is 480 calories. There's a meal worth of calories. And guess what that looks like in your stomach? Nothing. This is like little stomach drawings. You might have seen this on the Forks Over Knives website. Oil. This is what 500 calories looks like in the stomach. Oil here. That's 500 calories. That's 4 teaspoons. It does not take up any space. This is what cheese looks like. 500 calories of cheese. Again, it barely takes up any space in your stomach. You're not going to feel satisfied. Meat. So if you are, still including meat in your diet, if you are eating to satiation and you're including meat in your diet, if you're just eating to halfway with meat, and then that's 500 calories, if you want to feel satiated, you're going to have to fill your stomach with something else, which is adding more calories into your body. Let's look at what happens over here when we look at rice, potatoes, beans, all of our starches here. That's 75% full. When we eat 500 calories of non-starchy vegetables and fruit, that fills our belly completely. We get to be satisfied. Now, the reason why this is so important is because in our belly, we have what are called stretch receptors. And we have stretch receptors and we have nutrient receptors. Our nutrient receptors calculate roughly the amount of calories that we have eaten. So over here, your nutrient receptors are going to be going off. They're going to be going off and going, brain, stop eating. We've had 500 calories. And then your stretch receptors are going to be going, no way, man. We're not full. Keep eating. Keep eating. So how many times have you had, if in the past, say if you were eating cheese, how many times could you chow down a whole heap of cheese and something in you going, stop. But then there's something to go, keep going, I'm not full. If you keep going, you're going to add more and more calories on top of all that cheese. You can easily overeat calories when you're eating oils, cheeses, and meats, which are very high in calories. You need your stretch receptors and your nutrient receptors to be sending signals to your brain before you will stop eating. And those receptors will go off with less calories if you are eating rice, beans, potatoes, fruits, and vegetables. Okay. We won't go there. We're going to stop the share now for a moment. That is calorie density. I hope you understand why green light foods are great for weight loss including potatoes, right? Because they're so low in calorie density that you get to eat to satiation without overeating calories, and you don't have to count calories. We don't want anybody counting calories. We just naturally eat until we feel satiated, all right? So now, do you all understand why we want to be focused on those green light foods for not just health because they're high in nutrition, but also for weight loss because they're so low in calories? Okay, so I'm not going to go into too much detail about the health aspects of plant-based eating here. I'm sure that's why you're all here anyway. You've probably all done a lot of research on that. It's just the calorie density part that I wanted to take you through to help you understand if you think your carbs are holding you back from losing weight, that's actually not the truth. Look for the other opportunities. Where are you eating high calorie dense foods that can be adjusted? Okay. All right. So weight loss happens when you're in a calorie deficit, right? So I want to help you understand that eating green light foods, you can put yourself into a calorie deficit and eat to satiation, right? Your belly does not need to go hungry. Now, all you need to do is focus on shifting more of your plate to the green light foods, and you'll be able to continue eating generous portions of food and lower your calorie density and start that weight loss process. This is how you can start losing weight and lowering your calorie density. Right? You never have to worry about starving, and you never have to worry about counting calories. And you get to feel high vibration, energized, and healthy. Win-win. A lot of people that I speak to, when they're on the weight loss journey, think that they need to just reduce their portion sizes in order to lose weight. Like, I need to eat very small portions in order to lose weight. And guess what? If you're eating very high calorie dense foods, in order to get yourself into a calorie deficit, you would need to cut your portions down. You would really need to make much smaller portions. But that's not going to satisfy you. As I said, that stomach, that stretch receptor is not going to go off. It's not going to signal to your brain to stop eating. You're going to keep eating until you feel satiated. And even if you go, right, no, this is what I used to do. This is what my fitness pal says. Stop eating now. Even if you do that, your body's going to ramp up hunger later because it still wants to feel satiated, and then you're going to overeat later. When you eat generous portions of low calorie dense vegetables, you have another added benefit, that your body has to work hard to process all that volume of food. So what happens, by working hard, your body's actually ramping up your metabolism by processing that food. Whereas when you eat small portions of high calorie dense foods, it's not stimulating the metabolism so much. It doesn't have to do so much work to process less volume of food. All right. And one last thought on what to eat. When it comes to maximum health, you want to focus on variety, and you want to focus on abundance. So I see a lot of these plans going, just cut it down to one starch and one vegetable and just make it really simple. But here's the thing, like, we want to lose the weight in a way that is long-term and sustainable. So my mantra is variety. Go out and explore it all. It's all so low calorie density, and there's amazing flavors to be found. And when you eat a wide variety of different plant foods from that green light category, what you're doing is actually feeding your body a wide variety of different types of nutrients, different types of fibers, and all of those different fibers, they feed slightly varying different strains of the beneficial good bacteria in your gut. all of which is going to help improve your digestion, help improve the species variety in your gut. And that's what you want for overall health, by the way. Overall health and high metabolism is indicated by the number of species of different types of beneficial gut in your bacteria. So that is what is actually going to help you establish great health and help ramp up that metabolism. Okay. So now that I've talked you through the what the healthy whole food plant-based eating is, now I want to help you let go of that need, that desire to be perfect and change everything all at once. So, as I said before, you don't have to change everything all at once. It is a fallacy that you need to jump in right away, change everything. You don't. What we want to do is actually get real with where you are. Get real, get honest with yourself with where you are. And I want you to make a plan to move yourself some steps closer to your ideal, where you would like to be, i.e., reducing down the red light, reducing down that yellow light, and expanding that green light. Drop the need to be perfect. It doesn't exist. It sets you up to feel like it's all too much too soon, which the brain doesn't want, right? When the brain gets overwhelmed like that, it wants you to quit. It wants you to go back to what's familiar and comfortable. And that's when you set yourself up to, I guess, fail and tell yourself all of the stories about how you can't do it. It's too hard. It's just not for you. Oh, I really don't want this anyway. Right? We don't want to go into that space. We want to do it in a way that is doable and is gentle. I want you to focus on not about what's right, but fueling your body for health and for energy, which is around how can I just get more green light in my life, because I know when I do that, I'm going to feel great. So get to understand how green light foods make you feel in your body, not emotionally, how they make you feel in your body, versus red light. How does that make you feel in your body when you eat that? And really have your brain start to notice the difference and how your body is responding. Like, do you feel energized? How energized do you feel? How is your digestion feeling when you eat these foods? Versus, do you feel sluggish and tired, and does your digestion stop working? Have your brain really start to associate, to recognize the difference between red light and green light foods, and just get curious with the process. Right. Get out of your head in terms of trying to work out what's right and what's perfect, and just get into the body and feel into the body, and then have the brain start to listen to the body. Right. So, heading just back to the presentation for a moment, I'm going to walk you through. I'm going to walk you through my transition from pescetarian through to whole food plant-based. So this is a picture up here and you're going, what is that? Okay, so up the top here, I probably should have put a little label on it, but this very first bar that you see, something's going to happen. This very first bar that you see up top here, this is what I'm calling my pescetarian phase. So when I was pescetarian, this is where I approximately think my green light, orange light, red light picture sat. I haven't got exact percentages. I was just like, this is just pulling images out so we can all understand visuals. I ate a lot of vegetables. I did. I ate a lot of vegetables. A lot of what I ate was still vegetarian, and I just had, fish was like an option every now and then for me. So I might have a bit of smoked salmon or some tuna or something like that. But it wasn't very often. I was still mostly vegetarian. So I still ate a lot of vegetables. I didn't have I would have, avocado in here. Some nuts and seeds were probably in here, and condiments. I wasn't having plant milk, so that wasn't in there. I was maybe a little bit of tofu and tempeh, but not that much. I certainly wasn't doing probably wasn't eating wholemeal bread or wholemeal pasta. Let's be honest here. That was all sitting in the white portion over here. So in the red portion, what I was eating was obviously fish. I was cooking with oils. I was eating a lot of white flour products. At the time, I really loved making my own pasta, which included eggs. I was eating dairy, so it was white flour with eggs, and so yeah, so there's a lot of dairy. Not a huge amount of dairy, but there was dairy in here. There was eggs, there was fish, there was white flour products, white bread, and oils. And not that I was a huge sugar. No, actually, there was a period in my life where I was a bit of a sugar fiend. Yeah, I once ate a whole bag of icing sugar. Yeah, that wasn't good. So I've had my sugar struggles too. So yeah, so this is where I approximately think my diet stood when I was pescatarian. During this phase is when I was over exercising to try and keep my weight under control. In fact, these first three bars here, these first three examples here, were all when I was having to do monstrous amounts of exercise to keep my weight in check. So now, as I put these graphics, as I laid out these graphics, it really hit home to me why I was struggling in that space. Next, because basically I've just taken you through calorie density, huge amounts of calories coming from this part of my diet. Okay, and then next we move on, and this next bar down here, this is my vegetarian phase. So all that really happened is the fish left my diet, and so I don't think the I don't think the orange light changed much. Probably brought in a few more vegetables. Just naturally, this would have gotten a little larger because the red had reduced. So the dairy, the eggs, the white flours, the oils, everything was still up here. Oh, processed meats too. So, sorry, not processed meats, I mean faux meats, vegan or vegetarian meats were in both of these situations. Vegan sausages or vegan bacon or any sort of vegan meats I was definitely still eating through here through my vegetarian phase. And then when I became vegan, again, so the dairy left, and I would have added plant milk into here. Probably would have added some. I don't know if I was really having. I wasn't really eating things like vegan ice cream or yogurt and things like that because I didn't really eat those much as a pescatarian or vegetarian anyway. That was like a real once in a while type thing. So it's not like there was a huge shift there. But so the red light reduced a little bit again here as I took out dairy products, but I was still eating white flours, white breads, still cooking with oils, and a lot of the faux meats, the vegan meats, and the vegan processed foods. Of course, I was going out and exploring it all. So, everything in here, it didn't reduce that much, but I did start eating way more vegetables, I have to say. But it was when I went whole food plant based, and that's why it was such a significant change for me in my body, in my health, in my weight management. Remember, when I did this, it was in COVID. Our gyms were closed down. I couldn't do the monstrous amounts of exercise that I had done in the past because the gym was closed. And, I told you I used to injure myself a lot. I had a groin strain, so I couldn't even walk very fast. But I made a promise during COVID that I would get my butt out and walk the streets, go for a nice long walk every single day despite the weather. I ended up on the news once. It was like the coldest day in May in I don't know, 80 years or something, and the news reporters were out on the streets interviewing people who were out exercising that day, and I was one of them. I got on the news. So yes, I promised myself I'd be out walking every single day despite the weather, and I could only walk. I couldn't run or anything like that because of my groin strain, and still the transformation in my body happened. So here is where I significantly reduced all of that red light food, and um, and I got rid of all the plant-based meats, the faux cheeses, the oils, stopped cooking with oils. I no longer cooked with I no longer made pasta with white flour. If I was making pasta at home, or eating store-bought pasta, breads and everything, it was all wholemeal now. So that is where my orange light has now expanded. It's not come from my green light. It's actually transitioned from my red light into my orange light. And I've also, also eat more tofu and tempeh, and obviously plant milks in here as well. Nuts and seeds, pretty low. Um, so I don't snack on nuts and seeds. That's always been. I mean, occasionally I do, but I have small portions. I just get a handful at a time. But yeah, significant increases here in my green light food to have me transitioning more to whole food plant based. And that was what made the significant difference for me in my body. Um, so I want you to think. I want you to think about this particular, I guess, visual here, and I want you to think about what proportion your current diet is, where you currently sit. Um, and what you don't have to do is flip all the way to whole food, plant based, and really explode that green. All you have to do is simply go, okay, how can I start reducing that red light portion? What is in there? How often am I eating it? What's the volume am I eating? And how can I start to explode out? How can I start to really expand that green light portion, right? You want to make sure that you enjoy the process of losing weight as well. So you want to make sure that you are going in with a good mindset, that you're going in to explore. Go in with a mindset of excitement, of figuring things out, of exploring new foods, trying new tastes, rather than a fear of getting it wrong. Right? If you are reducing your red light portion of food and you're expanding your green light portion of food, there's no getting it wrong. You are making changes, you are making adjustments. It's about making constant and deliberate improvements in what you're doing. It's about progress over perfection. All right. So you don't need to change everything all at once, but know that the greener that picture looks, the healthier your body is going to become, the more energy you're going to have, the better your digestion is going to work, and the closer you're going to get to your end goal, right? As you start increasing that green light portion, I also would rather you think about abundance rather than restriction. We're not restricting this red light over here. We're just removing things that don't make you feel good. And you get to explode out this world of green light foods. There are 300,000 edible plants on this planet. I bet you haven't tried all of them yet. There's no need to feel restricted. There's no need to cut everything. There's no need to go right down to severe restriction and just eat potatoes or something like that. You don't need to do that. Think abundance rather than restriction. Go in with the mindset of learning and figuring it out. Figure out what's going to work in your body. Right? Just look at introducing one new recipe a week, something like that. Explore the abundance of amazing recipes that are out there. If you don't have my recipe ebook, by the way, just let me know. I will drop it to you. Make it a bit of an exploration of new meals and new flavors. Make it fun. Your brain is likely to flip out in the beginning and go, "Oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing." I don't know what I'm doing, but that's okay. You will figure it out. You will figure it out as you go. Just allow yourself some time and some grace to learn, to figure it out. Allow yourself some time to adjust, to slip up, to make mistakes. If you make mistakes, just feel into your body. Just say, okay, how did my body react to that? Does my body like that? If it doesn't like that, it's like helping you make the next best decision. Don't beat yourself up. The last thing you want to do is beat yourself up and tell yourself that you failed and you can't do it. Just make the next best decision and keep going. Like, you haven't stuffed anything up if you slip up. Um, the people who have succeeded the most in life are the ones who failed and failed and failed and failed. Don't get too hung up on, like, how many starchy veggies should I have? How many non-starchy veggies should I have? How much fruit can I have? Um, I just what we're doing right now, if you're not whole food plant-based, is start with where you are at, and then just expand that green light portion. Don't try and get into that space of perfectionism. Um, Stop thinking that there's a right way and a wrong way to do this. What works for one person may not work for another. For people who are already whole food plant based, I usually say to you, start with a 50-50 plate and go from there. Right? See if your body likes that. 50 starch, 50 non starch. Right? Test your body and feel what works for you. Don't overthink it, just feel into your body. Right? You've got to start with where you're at and switch that portion to more green light. You can get to that refining process further down the line when you're more into it. All right. Okay, just see if there's any questions here. Vicky, will we get enough protein with the green light foods? Vicky, you do not need to worry about protein at all, my friend. There is more than enough protein on a plant-based diet. Protein is originally formed, the essential amino acids anyway, the essential proteins that we need to eat, they originally come from plants. So when you eat an animal, you are eating the plant secondhand. The animal themselves has eaten the plant to make their own protein. So we don't need to eat disease promoting flesh. We can go straight to the source, which is the plants. So yes, you will get enough protein eating just green light foods, 100%. I think I saw another question in there. Helen, how is plant-based? Oh, Helen, I'll answer the plant-based versus vegan right now for you. Whole foods plant-based we wanna focus on here. So vegan is no animal products whatsoever. It is an ethic that avoids any harm to animals, or avoids as much harm as possible to animals. So it's not just about the food. It extends to products outside, household cleaners, personal grooming products. It involves animals for entertainment, animals being experimented on. It expands more than just what's on your plate. But when we talk vegan and plant-based, not whole food plant-based, plant-based, food-wise, they're exactly the same. So everything in plant-based is still plant-based. But someone who identifies as plant-based does not necessarily identify with the wider ethic. So and then there's plant-based and whole food plant-based. So plant-based still incorporates a lot of the processed foods, the processed plant foods, whereas whole food plant-based, as you saw the green light foods, non-processed. Okay, I hope that makes that really clear for you. Yeah, Vicky, plant-based meats are red light because they are so processed. They're not minimally processed, they are very processed. And if my body tells me anything, it's like my body does not want those. They don't feel good. Plant milks and yogurts, Helen, plant milks generally sit in the yellow light category. Yogurts can sit there as well, but you want to watch for what's going in them. If there's oils and a lot of chemicals and things like that, they probably technically sit in the red light. But that kind of, you want to just be careful about what's going in it. Plant milks and yogurts and things that you make at home that don't have all the chemical additives and the oils and things like that, that's actually better for you. So they'd be orange light. Okay. All right. Okay. Right. All right, so now that you understand what whole food plant-based eating looks like, and you know that you don't have to make all the changes all at once, you can just start to make gradual changes. The thing I highly recommend you do the most is have a plan. Don't just say I'm going to make a few small changes and then not have a plan to keep going, because what can happen is you make a few small changes and you get stuck. All right, so also when you're starting to make changes in your diet, like I say, the brain wants to go back to what it knows and what is comfortable, right? Your brain does not automatically remember that you're making changes. It doesn't remember that you're making changes and shifts with your food. It just you will automatically start to make old familiar choices. So don't try and remember this. Don't try and remember what it is that you're doing. Actually have a plan, because when you're tired at the end of a long day, when you've been working all day, your conscious brain has been doing a lot of heavy lifting and a lot of decision making and a lot of work during the day. At the end of the day, it just wants to relax. It wants to switch off. It just wants to go into habit mode. Okay? And your habit brain is going to take over and go, oh my God. So we just go and make some old choices around our food. The last thing you're going to want to remember at the end of a whole long day is what to eat. You don't want to have to be making decisions around that. You don't want to have to be making decisions around what you eat when you are changing your habits. Your brain is going to scream out for comfort and familiarity and going back to what you know. And it's going to do everything it can to have you going back to your old ways of doing things. So this is where having a plan ahead is going to save you. All right. So if you haven't watched my video yet on planning for success, I highly recommend you do that. It's in the group. Right now, I think it's still pinned to the top of the group. You'll see at the top there's some featured posts. I'm pretty sure it's still there. If you can't find it there, like if you're watching back on replay or something that's not there, then it will be under guides. So it's called Planning for Success. Highly recommend you go and watch that too, so that you can understand why planning is important, and you actually get a planning template that goes with that as well. So make sure you have a plan. Now, remember, when you're changing your habits and working on your mindset, there's a lot happening in your brain. There's a lot of new stuff that's being brought to the conscious brain, and it's going to rebel. It's going to get tired. Your brain is going to throw out all the reasons that you should go back to your old habits, because it's comfortable, because it's what it knows, it's easier. But it's not going to sound like that, just so you know. It's going to sound something like, I suck at this, I can't do this, I don't know what I'm doing, this is hard, this isn't working, this doesn't taste good, I'm not a very good cook. That's just a lot of the thoughts that are going to come up, all right, if you're just starting this way of eating. But just, I want you to remember that they are just statements from your brain, right? You don't have to indulge them. You don't have to believe in these thoughts. And they're not helpful to continue to indulge in as well. They don't take you forward. So we don't want to indulge those thoughts. We don't want to engage them. We don't want to give them power. So the more power you give thoughts like that, the more drama you're going to bring to your journey, the harder it's going to be. So we just want to engage our conscious logic, reasoning brain. It's our higher self, our genius zone. And we're going to choose some new thoughts around this being hard, right? We're going to choose new thoughts that are going to empower you, thoughts that kind of soften and then disprove the old shitty thoughts, which is like, I don't suck, I can do this, I'm a smart human being. I don't really know what I'm doing, but you know what? I'm intelligent, I'll figure it out, I'm capable, I've done harder things in my life. I'm learning something new. And I love learning new things. I love figuring new stuff out. This is going to be okay. Yeah, it's hard, but I'm up for a challenge. I can do hard things. This doesn't taste good, but here, let me see what I can do to enhance this recipe, to improve the flavor, right? On this journey, your mindset, your mindset, your mindset. It's going to make you, it's going to break you, right? You can do this. You want to make sure that you're looking for evidence that you're succeeding. Too often we're looking for evidence that we're failing. That's what our brains are naturally designed to do. It's designed to point out all of our faults and all of our flaws and all of the things that we're doing wrong so that we can fix them. But no, we end up telling ourselves that we're failing and we suck, and we want to throw in the towel. Right? You can do this. You will do this. You need to believe that. Right? Even if you don't really know exactly what steps you're going to take, just have belief in yourself that you can figure it out. Right? It just takes a bit of patience and consistency and holding yourself accountable every step of the way. And that accountability part can be the hardest, all right? Sometimes you need somebody by you to keep you accountable. Like, do you have a friend? Do you have a family member? Do you have a partner or someone like that who can hold you accountable to just staying the course and figuring this out for yourself? Okay. This is also where having a coach can make the difference for a lot of people. A little bit like having a personal trainer at the gym. You know, if you're wanting to work on your, building muscle and getting ripped and lean, it's just someone to help you focus, to help you correct your form, push you harder than you're willing to push yourself, than you would do in the gym. Or like, like a sports person or a sports team would have a coach, someone to help them improve their performance, help them work on their techniques, help them work on parts of the game they don't really like working on, help them where they're struggling to get over it and actually become better competitors all around. So having a coach is not or a guide is not a negative thing. It's what people who are absolutely really serious about achieving results do. So if you're serious and you've been struggling on your own, I highly recommend that you look at getting some coaching, whether that's with me or with someone else, I don't mind, but I highly recommend that you do so that you're not continuing to sit in struggle street. Right? That's the worst thing when we spend all of our lives trying to achieve a result. Like, it's taken me 20 years to figure this stuff out. I don't want it to take you 20 years, right? Having a coach is someone that you can be accountable to. It's someone to help you keep you going when your motivation is low, because when motivation is an emotion like this, it goes up and it goes down, it goes up and it goes down, right? It's someone to help keep you motivated when your motivation is low and you're feeling like you just want to quit on yourself. It's someone to help you assess and adjust and keep moving when you feel stuck and you want to throw it in because you're telling yourself you can't do this anymore. It's someone to help you really unlock your own genius in your own brain and help you think differently, that helps you create different results for yourself that you never thought were actually possible. Like, some of my clients now have gone from a space of, I really didn't believe I could do this, to now it's happening, right? I now fully believe, all we need to do is work on what's going on in here first. Help you see your blind spots when you can't, help you see when you're winning, when your brain automatically wants to show where you're failing. Right? Your coach is somebody who's never going to give up on you. They're going to have the full belief in you in those times when you're struggling to believe yourself, all right? And sometimes that is a major difference between people who end up succeeding and don't. Like, we all go through periods of our life where we feel like we're not succeeding, right? And having that person who has the full belief in you and can just help you keep taking steps forward even when you don't feel like you're succeeding can be the biggest thing, all right? Either way, whether you get coached or not, whether you decide to get help or not, it is time to get serious. Life is too short, guys, to spend it feeling unhealthy, feeling unhappy, feeling unhappy in your body and your weight, living in a body that you don't recognize anymore, having regret that you are where you are. It's time to knock this goal off your to-do list. Like, I remember how miserable I used to feel in my 20s, and I just wish I had a me back then who could just help me take small steps and stay accountable to myself and not keep throwing it in every 3 to 4 weeks whenever I'd start. It can just make such a huge difference, all right? So no more complaining about your weight and how stuck you are. It's time to actually do something, all right? If you are sick of staying stuck and you would like to chat about my joining my Plant Power Transformation program, join the amazing people in my private community who are kicking goals at the moment, realizing they can do it, they're already doing it, they're well and truly on the way to achieving their goals. Just drop me a heart emoji in the comments. And I'll reach out to you and we can just have a chat. We can just set up a time to have a chat. There's no commitment. It's just about seeing whether we're right to work together. But like guys, nothing lights me up more than seeing my clients going from that space of worrying that they're never going to be able to achieve their goals to suddenly having major aha moments and shifting their beliefs and realizing that they are stronger and more capable than they actually thought they were. So I would love for you to come and join them as well. I'd love to help you kick some ass and help you show you that you can do it as well. So yeah, if you want to, if you do want some help and some support in this area, just drop me the heart emoji in the comment, nice and silently, and I will reach out to you. So guys, if you have any more questions for me today, please drop them in the comments here too, and I'll address those before we finish up. I hope you found those visuals helpful. They were a little rushed and pulled together, but I just sometimes think that having a visual there can just help bring words to light. So, okay. All right, my friends. If there's no more questions for today, what I'll do is sign up. You can always leave your question in the comment and I will come back to you. But I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'm off to later to help one of my besties celebrate his 50th birthday. Oh my goodness, halfway there. Bye now, friends.